Today we're asking, how can you practice stewardship, ethics, and pursue God's purpose while working for or owning your own business? Join us as we answer with biblical wisdom and personal stories.
This is the UPD Podcast. It starts now. Welcome to the UPD Podcast,
Designed to point men towards Jesus.
real life, real talk. Join us. I'm Andy Lamb.
I'm Jonny Hanson.
This is the UPD Podcast.
Hey friends, thank you so much for joining us today on Untrained Philosophical Discussionists. My name's Jonny Hanson. There's my good buddy, Andy Lamb. And, we had technical difficulties. We recorded this episode a couple of weeks ago, and some things happened, as can happen in this business. And here we are. So we're going to try to muster up the the energy and the desire and the wherewithal to take ourselves back through an episode that should have come out already. So we've kind of had the last episode is supposed to be the next episode, and this one's going to be on Christian business ownership. I think we've got some great ideas still to go over. We re-listened to what we had and found it to be
worthwhile
useful.
It's worthwhile to record.
Yeah, so
Re-record. We think the content that came from it was worth the time and effort necessary that we wanted to keep it out.
bingo. So with that, we're going to do that. Please, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, Twitter, Spotify listeners. Geez Louise, thank you guys so much for taking the time constantly to, Nolan, I see you, buddy, to make comments, and it really helps. Believe it or not, it helps so much to get other traction, get other people to see it when you're interacting. So thank you for that.
Also, comment where you're from. I think that's kind of the
yeah.
fun part for us. We have people listening from all over the world that are commenting, and we really love that. We really love the engagement from you guys for our South African peeps and those in Zimbabwe listening and Finland listening and anywhere else that's told us where they're listening from. Thank you. We really love the fact that you guys are getting on here and finding worthwhile the content that we're putting out here on this side of the globe. And, you know, Jesus resonates everywhere. So it doesn't matter what the Bible says, every tribe, tongue, and nation, right? And so we want to be able to go and speak truth into all the world. And it's cool that this day and age we have the technology to be able to go out in all the world. Also, if you want to support us, Patreon. We got a Patreon. You know, it's
UPD Podcast, all one word. UPD Podcast, all one word, on Patreon. You put that in, that's going to bring it up. You bring it up, and you can you can contribute to what we're trying to do here. So you can see things cost money, and we spend our money to do it. We're happy to do it. We're still going to do it no matter what. But boy, it'd sure be helpful if you decided to contribute. So please consider that and do that and step forward in faith on that if you think our message is worth your capital.
Yeah, and if you sign up on Patreon, be a subscriber, you get some cool merchandise too. So we got t-shirts and hats with mugs and stuff like that we'll send you for being supporters. So thank you.
And we have events that we're going to do that you'll have access to that other people won't, just your average listener. So there's that piece. And then finally, we have a website. UPDpodcast.com. Check that out. There's videos there. There's the pictures of all the merch is there, so you can kind of see what we're giving out. And there's updates on a bunch of other stuff.
If you want to email us some questions or you have some content or anything you would like us to discuss, please feel and reach out through email and let us know that too. And we'd love to have conversations around stuff that you want to hear about. So we're just two yahoos that have about 100 years of experience in making really poor choices. And our mission from the beginning has always been, we want to help the next person steer clear of what we did wrong in hopes that you can do a better job of doing it correctly and honor God with your time and your words and everything else that you do.
All right, accounting out of the way. My favorite part of the episode. He lied.
No, that's because Jesus Christ. He's our homie.
Don't you dare. Holy smokes. Our next series is going to be on music and the impact of music and worship. And we've been watching a bunch of cringy 80s, 90s, early 2000s Christian music. There's one with an elderly white man doing a rap. It's got 94 million views. If you find that one, that's the one we listen to. There's a part of that song that is frankly disturbing and shocking. And you'll know when you hit it.
Proverbs.
It's something my uncle, my father's uncle would have said, and we didn't like him much. We like to start every show. We like to start every show with a proverb. Today's proverb is Proverbs 16:3. You want to start this one off, bud, or you want me to?
I'll get it up for us, man. I got to get my eyeballs on. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans." Again, I'll read it again. "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans." So when I read this is what I wrote down with this. So I said, trust God as if everything depends on him, and then work as if everything depends on us.
I love that. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. Trust God as if everything depends on him, and then work as if everything depends on us. So I kind of broke this down to look at three different aspects of the way that people can look at this. So number one is that we just trust God superficially, so in words, but not in actions. So it's just like, yeah, I trust God. But there's nothing that follows up with my heart or my life or my decisions that's really showing that I really put faith and trust in God. So one area. Second area is I can give God control temporarily. So I'm going to give God control for a while, but if he doesn't work on my time and then in the decisions that I desire, then I'm going to take that control back from him. And ultimately, I don't trust God with that either. And then the third one is that we give God control, but we put forth no effort. I call these the Jesus take the wheel people. It's, I'm going to have this decision or this idea, and I'm going to lay it before God and then sit back and just wait in expectation that God is just going to do everything for me. And I really don't like, for me, that's a very frustrating or a very simplistic way to look at life, as if, that just God is going to clear the way for me. Because I understand you read these Old Testament stories of like God leading the Israelites out of Egypt, and he splits the Red Sea, and he just rains down manna from heaven, and he does these amazing, miraculous things. And I still believe that God is still the miraculous today, but our expectation is that's how God is going to work in the everyday decisions and normal parts of our life. And, that's just not reality.
Well, how about this even? When you're reading the Bible, from one sentence to the next, years could have passed.
Well, definitely. Thank you. That's such a helpful description of the Bible. Thank you for laying that out like that. You're right.
From Paul's first ministry to his second ministry, which is, I'm reading the book of Acts right now.
I just finished that book. Love the book of Acts.
From his first ministry to his second ministry, there's 3 years in between. There is only a paragraph splitting the two.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know the 3 years until you go, I have a study Bible, so then I look towards the bottom and kind of read, and it extrapolates on each one of these concepts. And it says that there. And it's the first time I ever read that part. And it was like, holy smokes. So he took 3 years to refortify himself in whatever form that looked like before he went out on this next mission. And, that makes me then think about Joseph. And he spent a ton of time in prison. Like, that wasn't an instant he was in prison and then he was running things for Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
He was in prison for a minute, and then he worked for the other guy for a while before he went into the assistance of Pharaoh. It's like, these things took years to manifest and happen. Can God do something instantly? Sure, if he wants to. But what usually happens is he takes there's a forming. There's a time of forming and a time of like winnowing down to create the tool that God needs. And that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't recognize that enough, I don't think. And I think that's kind of a piece that you're saying there is like, read the three things again without the context.
That we give God control superficially.
Yeah.
Temporarily. And then it's give God control and I have no action.
Okay. It's like any one of those things is a lack of faith. So if it's either short-term lack of faith or long-term lack of faith, but ultimately the conclusion is consistently a lack of faith. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. And the challenging part of when we start to make decisions about committing our work to the Lord is our expectations, because we live in a world where I want it now. And
I have a microwave and can eat food 60 seconds after I put it in there, from the refrigerator where it's cold
to my mouth,
to
hot,
piping hot,
60 seconds. And so our expectation in business or anything big is that's how God's going to work
Can
here.
be.
Yeah. And so then the question is, okay, so I let's just take a business. I'm starting a business. Let's just take this as a perfect example. Like, okay, we're going to start this podcast. We're over a year into it and still spending money and still working towards this thing. And so it'd be very easy for us to go a year in, nothing's come of it yet. So this was fun to do and let's walk away from it. Or we can continue to go, we feel that God is in the midst of this. And so we're going to continue to work because we believe that God is growing us. He's stretching us. He's causing us to rely on him more. He's making us think bigger. And because of that, we just continue to pursue on. It'd be very easy for you if you don't get a result immediately to think God's not behind that. But that's not reality. Very often what happens is that God, as you just said, it just begins to trim, begins to prune. He begins to form who you are, begins to strengthen you. And the only way that you're going to get that is over time. I had a breakfast with this young man this week, and we were just talking about, he was asking me some questions of what I thought he should do with his life and where he should go. And we were talking about knowledge, and he's like, I have all this knowledge. And he goes, I really want wisdom. And I said, that's where you want to be. But I said, there's one way you get wisdom. One.
Time under tension?
Time. It's time under tension. That's the only way you're going to get wisdom.
Yeah.
And in today's culture and society, it's not how we work. That's not how we react. I can right now get on my phone and go to Amazon, and before you and I are done recording, something's going to be at my house.
Well, or I can assume my ability to use that tool right there and gain knowledge instantly from it means I'm knowledgeable. So I can use any of these AI things now, whether it's Grok or ChatGPT, to get a pretty quick answer on something. In fact, I was setting up my generator because we're starting to move towards that season now. And I bought a brand new one for this year, and I'm just making sure I'm doing everything right because this is like dual fuel. You can use propane or you can use gas. I've never had one that had propane. So I was sitting on the propane part, just kind of checking that out and giving it a run. And all I had to do was put into ChatGPT, what's the amount of oil to put into this thing? What's the amount of this? What's the amount of that? How do I set da? And it laid it all out for me in
8
3 seconds. I didn't even have to watch a YouTube video anymore of some other guy and get through his like, share, subscribe on his channel. I just was able to instantly have this info from ChatGPT and apply it, and it worked great and everything was perfect. So this instantaneous thing can make me feel like, boy, ain't I smart. Look at how now I know that information. It took me using it to confirm that it worked. And then it'll probably, because I didn't earn that information, it'll probably go a month from now, ask me how to do it. And I'll probably be bringing up ChatGPT again. Now, reestablishing this here, Proverbs 16:3, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. There's an ask and then there's a promise. The ask is commit to the Lord whatever you do.
And I think the most important word that we connect with there is the commit, right? So it's very easy to read this and just kind of spin right off of that. But it's like, what does it mean to commit?
To give yourself over to.
Completely.
Right. So commit to the Lord whatever you do. There's the requirement, and he will establish your plans is the promise.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's awesome. I don't think we consider it that way very often. It's saying, do this and this will happen. And that's kind of what we're always suggesting here at UPD. Our stories are always, hey, we tried it. It worked for us. Why don't you try it and see if it works for you? It's really just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
So, my thought of this was I was thinking about when I used to bartend. That's where we became friends, where I met my wife. I was making great money bartending, and I had just gotten a brand new job at a bar that I wanted to work at.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, at that exact same time, started doing my contracting business. And I knew that to be with this woman that I really liked a lot, that I already kind of had a hankering to marry in a way. I was already in that direction of my mentality. I wanted to settle down. I wanted to be with somebody and really invest that time. And I really liked my wife at the time. And she became my wife, obviously. But the thing was this bartending thing made way more money. And it was a job that I'd wanted. And the contracting thing is hard work, and there was no guarantee of anything. I had two, maybe a third job on the horizon, but I had two guaranteed jobs. And for the first couple of weeks, I worked all day painting houses, and then I would work deep into the evening time bartending. I did that for, 3 or 4 days a week, and then I'd catch up my sleep on the other couple of days that I had. But I didn't get much time with this lady that I really liked. And I was praying about it, like, God, what do I do here? And I didn't get an instant answer, but I got a indication in the responses I was getting from others as I'd bring this idea up. Again, we always talk about mentorship, but having friends around that care about you, that are invested in God. So I'm talking to Joel, I'm talking to my wife, future wife, girlfriend, and saying like, gosh, I don't think I want to do this bartending thing anymore. I want to see if this contracting thing could work. It would give me more time to be. She had a child. We have a child. She had a child already. So like that was going to take, I need to be around for that if I want to be with her.
Right.
So these things had to happen. I remember praying about it and just feeling like, this was the step to take. And the minute I did that, other people, God started organizing things around me and started making it so that this was the job. All of a sudden that third job solidified. And then that guy knew a couple other people, and a fourth and fifth job materialized. And I was able to move away from that. So it was like that prayer was me committing and saying, all right, God, I got a decision to make here. I'm going to give it up to you. I'm going to keep doing these things until I get an indicator. And the indicator was people around me going, you can stop doing that bartending thing. You can take on this contracting thing. And then the minute I did it, God instantly stepped into that place with establishing the plan because more jobs materialized. I wasn't putting out stuff. And then I did go about putting stuff. I made flyers. And initially when I started my business, every neighborhood I'd work in, I'd go knock on doors. And if somebody wasn't there, I'd put a little door hanger on saying, in the neighborhood painting, let me know if you want a free estimate. And there's a little picture of me with an American flag behind me. My wife made it. She goes, you're so American. Look at how American this looks. This is great. People are going to hire you. And they did. So, ask God in and then align yourself with him. Again, that prayer thing helped me to align myself. It's saying, God, I trust you. You've got great plans for me. And though I'm uncertain of what they are, I think you're going to do great with them. And I'm just going to trust you with them. And also, it's then trusting that he will give you the provisions you need.
Right. But what I want people to hear from your story, because I love that story because it's a perfect example of you stepping out in faith and then God establishing your steps. But what people also need to hear, it was still hard. Like, there's a lot of hard days where you question that. And there's a lot of hard days where you're still wondering where that next job is coming from. There's a lot of hard days of physical labor doing your job.
There's doing things that weren't my job. I wanted to paint houses. I didn't want to clean roofs, but a lot of people wanted to pay me to clean their roof because I cleaned one guy. He goes, can you put some spray and forget up there? And I said, okay. And I did that. And then his neighbor said, boy, look how much better his looks. We do that to mine. Okay. I didn't want to do that, but it became part of this early part of establishing the business. Hey, I got a fence in the back. Would you tear that fence down? All right. Can you take it away? Sure. Here's what I think it would cost for you to do that. All right, great. I'll do it. So that's what all of this became, was me just saying yes and showing up and working hard. And then they would tell other people because I was available. I said yes, and I worked hard. So yes, those things were all components of it as well. But God was establishing those plans. With every time that I showed up, God showed up. And then he would provide, and he would make sure everything's there. And here we are 10 years later in this contracting business. It propels. It does its own thing. I don't do any advertising, like you've said before. People just contact me through other contacts, and I have goodwill in my name, and we still do the same hard work. Sometimes people ask us to do stuff. Sometimes I get to say no now, which is great.
You do get to say no now.
Hey,
I don't do that type of work no more. Sorry,
I'm not getting on the roof and cleaning your roof. There are roof cleaning companies. Let me recommend a couple that I know.
Yeah. And because of that, you're no longer a popper.
I can't believe you did that. I can't believe. In our first recording, friends, he threw this popper word out like it meant something from this millennium. And I called him out on it, and he was embarrassed that he had said it previously. And of course, he's got to step on his own toes and bring it up again here.
Why not?
It means poor person back in the 1700s.
That's what it means.
I'm sure there's, a couple of dead people rolled over in their graves, goofball. Let's
I had to.
let's
sorry,
get this
dude.
stink off us
you told
by
me,
moving on.
You told me not to, so.
The three components, friends, that we'd like to talk about today when it comes to being, this isn't just being a Christian owner of a business, though we're both owners of our own business and we do bring Christ into it. It's being a representative of Christ everywhere. I'm reading the ultimate works of A.W. Tozer, and he's talking about worship in this section. And he's saying worship is everywhere. If you're just showing up on Sunday and you consider that to be enough worship, then you're falling very short of the mark. In fact, I think he's kind of insinuates, might as well stop wasting your time on Sundays. If you're a Christian, Christ should be with you everywhere you go. He should always be represented in your life. That doesn't mean always carrying a Bible around and sticking it in people's faces. In fact, I would argue that the slickest, most impressive Christians to me rarely have to breathe the name of Christ, though they do, and you will have to, and you should know the things of Christ so that you can speak of them, but you don't have to lead with that. You lead with these fruits that Christ offers, and you become seductive, and it seduces those around you, not in the sexual way, but it seduces those around you to be curious, and their curiosity will make them ask, and there's your door.
I watched this video this week on Brian Headwelch, the guitarist for Korn,
Yep.
and the interviewer asked him, he's, as he's on tour with Korn, and he asked him the question, is like, how do you find yourself being a follower of Jesus and living in that world like that? And he's like, when it comes to my faith, I'm not going to be the guy that's just going to shove it down your throat all the time. He said, because that never ever works. He said, I'm going to live my life in such a way that when you see me, it's different. Mm-hmm. And you want to know why I'm different. And then I have the opportunity to share my faith with you.
Yep.
So he's like, when I hear that, I'm like, well, you go into a business every day that's full of non-believers and secular people as well. So you're not supposed to go into any realm where there's secular people whatsoever, because good luck going anywhere. So by
the way, how can you even be on mission then?
You'll never be on mission that way.
You'll never be on mission.
You're going to find yourself on a country club of believers. I'm all the way out. I have zero desire to be in a country club. That's disgusting to me, that we have a calling in our life to go and do and preach the gospel in all nations.
Somebody preached. The only reason I know Jesus now is because somebody let it look good on them, and it brought me in. I didn't grow up in a Christian household, so I would not be a follower of Christ if it wasn't for somebody else on mission.
Entering in a drug, alcohol-fueled world to share Christ with you.
Bingo.
So,
and saying there's a way out of this.
There's absolutely a way out of this.
And looking and having their whole life be so much more appealing than the life I was in, to have me, like a cynic, very cynical, go, all right, I'll hear you out, and then be transformed forever. Like, that's huge.
Let it look good on you.
So the three parts of this: business as stewardship. So basically, whatever God gives you, whether it's a position at a company or it's the owner of the company, how are you going about stewarding your position? Obviously for the business, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but also for the kingdom of Christ. Secondly, ethical decision-making. Are you allowing the business and the ego and the desire for more money to corrupt your morality and take, precedence over the character God's calling you to be with your ethics? Mm-hmm. And then third, purpose-driven business. Like, what is your mission? Is Christ in it? And then how do you go about making part of the purpose a purpose for the kingdom of eternity?
Yeah. I was reading this story about the first part of this business as stewardship. There's this business, the Barnhart Crane family. You can find them online. It's just a super intriguing story. This Alan and Catherine Barnhart in the 1980s both felt, they met in college, both felt a calling in their life to go be missionaries. And Alan was an engineer. And so they were looking at countries they could go into that missionaries were not allowed into, but engineers were. And so they would use his position as an engineer to go in and do work, and at the same time, they'd be able to preach gospel in some of these countries where missionaries are not allowed. 1986 comes around, and Alan's parents own this rigging company, and they called Alan and said, hey, listen, we're retiring. We have this business. If you guys want it, you can come run it. We'll give it to you. We'll sell it to you. He said, if not, we're closing the doors. We're going to go sail around the world. And so Alan and Catherine began this conversation of what do we do? Do we go and take over this business, or do we go be missionaries? And Alan prayed about it and felt like God was telling him to go take this business over. Catherine didn't like that, but because she honored her husband and honored God, went along with it. And so in 1986, they have this business where they set up rigging, they move big things, and they set up big buildings is basically what this job is doing. And so at that point in time, they're about $1 million a year business. But Alan and his brother Eric took over the business and made a decision at the very beginning that they were going to set their salaries at a small number, and that they were going to utilize this business to help bring glory to God and to help give money away. So that very first year, their income they set at $40,000. Through the years, as their business grew, the max salary they ever took was $160,000. They took that business from $1 million a year to $400 million a year in business. And the max salary these guys ever took was $160,000, was the most they ever made. They told their employees right from jump when they hire people that we are not going to utilize your work to help make our lives easier and better. And they created this ethos of their company that we are going to take 50% that we make, and that goes back into the business, and then we're going to take 50% and give that of our gross and give that money away. And that's what
Who do
they
they
did.
give it away to? Do you know?
They have a lot of different organizations that they allow them and the employees to pray about and make decisions on where that money goes. But all Christian organizations, they're just giving it away for missionaries or giving it away to. I don't know all the details of where that aspect of it is, but you could watch them as their business grew, as they stayed committed to just giving money away.
Do they have? So there's a couple of questions I have here. I didn't have when last you brought this up. Because this.
By the way, I'm not saying that every business has to be run like that. It's like this is what they felt God was telling them to do.
I'm never going to run my business like that. I don't. That's not for me. But I don't deal in the millions of dollars. Mine's more down to earth in my world. I wonder if they hold stock. Do they hold stock in the business? They got to hold something so they can.
It's not a publicly traded company.
Okay.
They actually gave away ownership of their company now.
Huh.
So they don't even own the company anymore. They have running like principle of it. So they own 1% of the company because of the way their structure is set up. Because they own 1% of the company, that gives them the ability to run the company, make decisions for the company, but they don't actually own the company any longer. They gave it away.
I think that the one thing that strikes me about the whole story, I'm not doing any of it, but the piece that's interesting that, I don't do any things that are centered around alcohol. If you were like, hey, we're having a big kegger at my house, or somebody else asked me that, we're having a kegger at the house and we want you to come because it's a Super Bowl and they're doing an alcohol centered thing, I'd go, it's probably not for me, bud.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then especially if they were doing like a drug centered thing, like somehow I got invited to the dope party and everybody's in the bathroom doing blow, that's a party I'm getting the heck out of instantly.
Quickly.
Yes. Because I used to have a problem with those things.
Yeah.
So it makes me think with those guys that maybe sometime early in their lives, they seen a example of where money corrupted. And they said, you know what? I'm not even going to let that into my life that way.
They talk about it.
Well, great.
Yeah.
So,
he talks
that
about,
makes sense to me.
He talks about having a fear of wealth.
There you go.
Because his fear of it isn't like, I'm scared of it. His fear is that I have a healthy respect of what wealth does to people.
Right.
Now, listen, they admit to this too. Like, he's got they took $3 million, put that in the retirement. That's what they're going to live off of the retirement. If you take 3% of that money out a year, right, you're never taking away, you're only using interest, you're never using principal, right?
Like
That's what they're living off of.
That at least, all of that then can track and make sense to me.
Yeah.
When you said $140,000, all they ever took, I'm thinking like, Oh, after the taxes hit, boy.
Yeah, that's their max salary that they ever took. No, but like I
and then
said,
there's other things then.
so when they retire, they'll get to live off about $100,000 a year.
Fantastic.
And they'll just continue living. They just took their life. My point is this. They took their life and they said, this is where we're comfortable.
I love that.
And this is where we're going to stay.
Right.
We don't need to have all these extra accoutrements of the world. Right. Because they're not satisfying, because we know this. And we, like, as soon as you get that, you level up. And I talked about this in one
It depends on your heart. Where's your heart at? Again, getting back to the main thing, the heart issue is the issue. My heart says, Johnny, you got to stay away from dope parties and alcohol-fueled parties, bud. I already did all that. I had a lot of fun, and then I had very bad times, and I don't go around that no more because I don't want the temptation. Yeah?
I don't need that temptation in my life, man.
This guy, in his capacity, said, boy, I have seen the way money can take over people and can steal the joy that Christ wants for them, and I don't want that in my life. So he went about setting up his life to navigate around that temptation.
Mm-hmm.
I respect that big time. It's not, and that's how I can differentiate and say that's not for my business, because my business we're not dealing in the millions of dollars or $100 million.
Hundreds of million dollars, yeah.
No. So I don't have to worry about that temptation. I never designed my business to be that way. I had opportunities to build the business bigger and didn't want to. In my own way, I like being on every job site. I like being able to communicate with the clients, and that's kind of what I was called to. I tried to make it bigger for a time and found it kind of unappealing, frankly. Mm-hmm. So it's the size I want it to be now. But I respect that guy went about choosing how to sculpt it so that temptation wasn't one of his. He probably had other things that am I making sense here?
For sure you're making sense.
I think that's great then. Yeah. When you say it, it sounds like the respect piece is because of something else. And it's cool that they gave their money away. We don't know what they gave it to specifically. But
one of the big ones was the Christian Heritage Foundation.
Okay.
Which is a great organization. So but nonetheless, I think the important aspect I drew from that story is the posture of their heart was when you hear them in an interview, it's like, this is God's business. This is not our business. God has given us this business, and he's going to ask us to steward this business in such a way that it brings honor and glory to him, not to us. And so they were just like, we have two options here. We can take this amazing business he's given to us, and we can excel our lives. But his fear, like I said, his fear in that was that it would detract him from his necessity of relying on God.
Got it.
Not that you can't. He's like, $100,000 a year, you can live pretty comfortably, especially in some parts of the country.
In the 80s.
Yeah, live really comfortably.
In the 90s.
In the 90s. And today it's a little bit tougher.
Yeah, it doesn't go as far as it used to.
It does not, man. But nonetheless they were like, everything's paid for in our household. We are, and they're teaching their kids, and some of their kids work for the company today. So they've just done a great job stewarding it. That doesn't have to be your story. But I think having an understanding of what money can do to people and how it can change people's hearts and minds, I'm glad you push back on that part of why. What's the why behind it?
I think that's the important piece, stewardship. So it's let's kind of define that a bit. When you're looking at your money or anything in this world, Psalms 24:1. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Mm-hmm. So it's God's resources and God's outcome. You just have to show up.
Yeah, stewardship is temporary management of something you don't own.
Perfect. So when my heart is centered on Christ, if I'm trying to go about honoring him each day, which isn't easy. I have frustrating jobs that suck and things aren't going right and the machine breaks down or the client is asking has unreasonable expectations. I have to analyze, did I set was I not clear in my initial thing, or is it them? And I have frustrating days. And those are days where it's harder to go, all right, God, you got a plan for this, huh? Admittedly. But when I do allow myself to say, all right, God, this you do, which is sometimes a hard thing. All right. I got to grind it into my brain. All right, God, you have me here for a reason. I'm doing this for a reason. I'm sure you have an outcome reasoning. I'm looking forward to finding out what that is soon. And you just kind of grind it out because you show up, and that's your place, is to show up.
Yeah.
And his outcome's going to be his outcome.
That's right.
And when it does make those moments easier, and it does make going through them easier, and then especially on the other side, again, it's opening up your field of vision to look around the corners instead of just myopically here, looking all around and seeing, okay, God, because you had me here, maybe influencing this unreasonable client wasn't why you had me here. Is there anything else going on that could be a reason? Maybe it's somebody over here that needed the inspiration of you continuing to grind it out.
Man, that's such a good perspective to take as part of stewarding your business well, is like asking the question of, why does God have me here?
And how am I representing this position that represents God?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how am I bringing Christ into this? How, if somebody else is only assuming, if I'm the only Christian they're going to run into this month, what's their opinion of Christians?
Or maybe it's you're the Christian that they've ran into that didn't hurt them or screw them over. Somebody came in, showed up with the Jesus fish on their T-shirt and on their truck, and overpromised and underdelivered, and now their expectation is that this is who Christians are. Right. So there also, that is an aspect of the stewardship of like you showing up and working with all your heart and putting everything into it.
Right.
So the product you have on the backside of it is a representation of God's hard work that he has put into you as well. And so that is also a secondary part of stewarding that business well, is that you do what you say you're going to do.
I think it's the most fundamental, useful way for me to approach stewardship, because I'm not in the $100 million, I can give away $50 million range.
Probably never will be.
The financial aspect from that direction isn't happening with this guy's company. However, the more applicable for me on a day-to-day basis is, how am I representing Christ here? So how am I stewarding my position as the owner that will reflect Christ to those around, whether it's my employees, or it's the person that maybe I'm working for, or it's the neighbor who has seen me showing up every single day with a good attitude, handling stuff, and they know that the neighbor's a jerk.
Good point.
I've had that happen, where somebody comes over and goes, "Oh boy, you're working for Paul, huh?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "Oof, his wife is pretty tough." And I go, "Yeah, well, I don't know. We're just here doing the best work we can. Boy, if you can put up a third, you could probably... Do you want to come by later on, take a look at some of our stuff? My job will be a lot easier than that job." I've literally had that kind of conversation. I go, "I'd love to. We'll come by about 3:00 and take a look and get you an estimate." And they go, "Great." And then it just trickles into this other thing, right?
God continually establishing your steps.
Bingo. Yeah, it's beautiful. So there's stewardship, and then I would just put these as finer points, so maybe smaller points, but still worth mentioning, is reinvesting in my business is also stewardship of my business. Keeping upkeep on all the tools that we need in our field. My guys always see me doing that. If we need something, I just go get it. And rather than having junk that they got to somehow work with these crappy tools, you see that sometimes on a project where it's like got busted up stuff that's garbage, and you're going like, don't even bring that in my house. Ugh. Instead it's like, if that needs repair, we repair. If that needs replace, we replace. And the business funds come right out of that, and that gets done. And I'm constantly looking for ways that we can upgrade or upkeep any of the stuff that we use day to day. And that's stewarding it well. It's saying, God, you still have me in this position. I'm still doing this job because you have me here. Let's do it. Let me continue to invest because that's what I think you're telling me to do, Lord. Right?
Absolutely. I am a representation of Christ. And so my representation of Christ has to be sometimes in the details of what I do, like everything that people are seeing about me, that I'm working and how I carry myself, and the self-worth and self-respect that I have. Like you just said, if I'm walking in looking shabby and the tools I've carried around are busted, and it's like, who's this person that's in my house doing this work right now? Can I trust them? And more importantly, do I want to refer these people to somebody else? When you are working off a business like you do, like 100% of my business is referrals. So if I know that 100% of my business is referrals, then how I carry myself from appointment to appointment, from sale to sale, from house to house, from customer to customer, as I go along, when people are looking at me, they're looking at me questioning is, can I trust this person? Does what they do bring value to what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then if I do share them with my friends, family, whoever, are they going to get the same work that I got? Because I don't want to look silly, having them going to do work for somebody else. But when you have enough respect for yourself and I'm carrying Christ with me everywhere that I go, that I'm doing all for the name of the Lord, then I'm going to work a little bit harder. I'm going to make sure that the job that I'm doing gets done efficiently, that what I tell them is going to happen, that I'm going to be a man or woman of my word.
What if something goes wrong?
It will.
And what do you do then?
Ownership. I think this is the biggest problem that we have today with people is like, if something screws up.
Oh, I told him to do it.
Yeah.
I told that guy over there to do it.
I've got them.
Go talk to him.
I've got employees, man. And if my employees mess something up and they call me on it, I just like, it's my fault. And they're like, but
I sent that person there.
I've had them say this to me, but you weren't here. Doesn't matter. I'm the boss. It falls on me.
How can I go about fixing this?
That's it. And guess what? Every time I do that, I go, it's me. I take complete ownership. We screwed that up. How can I make it better for you? They want to work with me.
Of course. So extreme ownership. Shout out to Jocko Willink.
Joe, if you haven't read that book, read that book.
Extreme ownership, shared success. When they come in and they go, this looks amazing. I got the best team in town.
That's it.
And then they go,
steward your employees.
Well, because then the employees go, God, the boss man always just treats us so good. This isn't to pat my own back. This is a very kind thing that was said to me. Dave, our good buddy, BGD, shout out. He said to me a while back, he goes, Dave's like early 50s. He says, man, I've never worked for somebody that talks like you talk. I go, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you constantly, he goes, every single day when we're about to leave and we're done for the day, he says, you always make a point of going, hey guys, thanks so much for your hard work today. Appreciate you guys. He goes, nobody ever said that to me. And to me, it's like, I really do. It's a bajillion degrees in the state of Florida and we're painting an exterior. They don't have to be there. They could do something else if they were so inclined.
Mm-hmm.
They choose to show up and work with me. Now, I do choose to pay them well.
Right. As you should.
I agree. Yeah. I'd want to get paid well to do what we're doing. So I pay them what I think I would want to get. But at the end of the day, still even making that pay, I realize that some days it sucks and some days it's hot. And then other days it's great too. And I thank them on those days. God, wasn't this a great day, guys? Thank you so much. I'm so glad this worked easy for us, or this worked relatively well for us. And on the hard days, that too. And he said that to me. And I just thought, and it's funny because, I don't consider that. I just say it and I mean it, but I don't consider the hard impact that it's actually having on him. And it had so much that he brought it to me. I just thought, man, that's cool. And then I was praising God about it. And I mean, that's kind of that triangle effect there. He's saying that to me, and I just got to give it right back to God. Because I didn't even recognize myself being that grateful gratitude guy. Because I'll have crappy experiences throughout the day where I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
His takeaway from the day, BGD's takeaway from the day is, boss man thinks that, he appreciates me being here. I'm going to show up tomorrow.
Yeah, because they get to see you do hard things, and they get to see you work through those hard things.
Sure.
And at the end of that, they get to also see your response to it as well. You get to carry the temperament of the company, right? You get to set the standard and the pace of what the expectations are. And at the end of it, if they walk away feeling beat up, good luck getting anybody to want to do work for you. But at the end of the day, they know Johnny's going to be like, hey guys, thanks for that hard work. They're going to work hard.
And then again, it's just me going like, God, thank you for changing my heart.
Yeah.
Because that has not always been the posture of my heart. And it really is God working through me in those times. At the end of the day, when I'm tired and don't have much left, knowing that I need to say that to those guys. Hey, if I'm tired, that means you're tired too. And I seen you and I see you and thank you.
Yeah.
That matters.
It's big time, man.
Next piece, ethical decision making.
I'm going to read a verse.
Please.
Colossians 3:17. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Again, and whatever you do, whether word or deed, so whatever you say or whatever your actions, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus. Do it all. When I think about ethical decision making, it's making the right choices when nobody is watching, right? So, working in the gray. I think this is one of the hardest parts for business people. I think this is probably, I know for me early on, it was very tempting to work in the gray.
Under the table.
Under the table.
That's what does that term mean? Under the table.
It means I'm not paying taxes on this. It means I'm just going to pay cash under here, and I'm going to get this work done over here, so nobody has to know what's going on, and then I get to write it off in the.
You and I come up with an agreement in the gray.
In the gray.
Yeah.
It's very easy for us to, especially when you own a business, to expense things that aren't business expenses.
Okay.
Here's the problem. As you begin down this path of running a business and you're going, I can write this off, right? Whatever I write off, it gets to come off my taxes at the end of the year. And it's so funny to hear people say this. They're always like, well, you got to write that off. I still have to spend the money. But at least I can write it off so it comes off what I owe in taxes at the end of the year. And so it's very easy for us to work in the gray and go, nobody's watching. IRS won't know. If they audit me, I can explain why I business expense this out. So I'm going to go buy groceries today and say that those groceries are for the office. I bought this for the office, but I'm just taking that food home and eating it. Right. And then at the end of the year, I get to write all that off and pay less in taxes. And the argument people will make from there is, well, I don't trust that the government is doing what they should be doing with my money. So therefore, I'm going to give them less money because they're just stealing it from me anyways. Here's the problem. The Bible tells us, and you said this verse either, but it says, give to Caesar what Caesar's. It means respect the governing authority because God has put that governing authority there. And so my role is to be an honest, ethical business person. And by me being an honest, ethical business person, God will establish my steps. When I start working in the gray and I start doing things that are really outside of what a business expense is, and I start writing all that stuff off, God's looking at at my heart as well, because it's me saying that, God, I don't trust you.
What don't you trust?
I don't trust that I'm going to make enough money in business, so therefore I'm going to cheat over here so that at the end of the year I make more money.
Let's put a finer point on that. It's saying, God, I don't trust that the outcome you'll provide is enough. So I'm going to cheat. Yeah?
Yeah, that's exactly what it means.
So it's just trust. Once again, it's trust.
Always comes down to trust.
Gosh, sure does.
Always comes down to trust. The problem with that, doing that too, and I've been there. This isn't me condemning you. This is me. We are always, listen, as you watch and listen to us, if the first time listening to us and you're this far into it, we are always
like, share, subscribe.
Should we run?
Comment.
Please leave a comment right now. Golly, sucker. It's a slippery slope. So we are always self-deprecating. This is what we have done in the past and what we no longer do because
we've for sure worked in the gray. That's why we know all the terminology. That's why we know how you do it, is because we did it. Mm-hmm. We have not lived perfect lives. We've found that through turning towards Christ, trusting Christ with everything, our lives have become better.
That's it.
That's the entire message of this podcast. Men, women, children that hear it. We're here saying living a life aligned with Christ is the best version of your life. Anything else is going to be less than the best version.
Period.
And especially as you escape further into these gray areas of life, you'll find that the outcomes are even worse. And we've had very extremely awful, very not good outcomes because of crappy, poor, and very bad, awful decisions we've made.
Period.
So we're here saying, boy, almost 100 years on this planet has taught us a few things. Let's share them with you in hopes that you don't do the same dumb crap we did.
Yep, because if you start down this slippery slope of today I'm going to write this off and tomorrow I'll write that off, then 5 years down the road you've created this habit of writing off things that you shouldn't be writing off. And then one day the IRS shows up to do an audit of your business.
Sure, there's that. Let's also talk about, I don't think you're going to ever get. There's a connection you develop with God when you trust him. And you're selling that connection short. Every time you say, God, I don't think you're going to show up when I want you to and when I need you to.
Well, that's the superficial. That's what I said at the very beginning. That's the
Great.
superficial, right?
For sure. So as you continue to do this, and every day you're saying, I don't trust God that the outcome you have planned is enough. So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to cheat. I think you're deadening the actual, and maybe you don't even have a connection to God at some point in time. I think it's all these, we always say it, but it's these steps out into the desert. So the cheating takes you there, drugs take you there, alcohol takes you there, pornography takes you there. All these things take you far from God. I would say that in this, if you're just a cheat, you're not close to God, and you can't be.
Yeah, and you'll eventually could start cheating in other areas of your life as well.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you set the standard for your life. So if I have a call to God to be honest, to be trustworthy, and to say that to God that I trust you, then I'm going to trust him in these areas. I'm going to do these things correctly. Chances are the truisms of life, if I'm doing this area of my life correctly, there's going to be other areas of my life that are going to match up.
When we started our business, my wife, because women can lead too, and as a leader, she said, we're going to do this business the right way. We're going to go get we're going to get the LLC, the licensure. We're going to pay taxes. We're going to pay insurance. And from the rip, we did. And it was hard, man. It costs a ton of money when you don't have any money to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not giving out business loans to a guy with a dream a light dream to start a paint contracting business. They're not lining up to give you money. You got to earn any offers you end up getting later. And by then, if you're a good steward of your money, you tell them, get the heck out of here. I'm not borrowing your money. I've got my own in this business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the ethics, is saying, God, I trust you that you want me in this direction. I'm going to invest in it, and I'm going to do it the right way. And it reminds me, I've told this story before here, but there was a contractor out by me who wanted me to paint some cabinetry. He's an older guy. He's like 20 years older than me. And he called me and said, hey, man, I got this client of mine out here. I've worked for him a bunch of times. They need some cabinetry done. You paint cabinets? I said, sure. He said, I'd like to set you up with them. And I said, great. And he goes, let's set it up for Thursday, 9 a.m. I said, cool. And I'm driving out there that morning. And I forget if he called me or I called him, but we were speaking. I think it was him calling me, frankly. And he said, hey, you're heading out there then, right? And I go, yeah. And he goes, they're expecting you. Great. Hey, when you get out there, before you give them a number, can you give me a holler? And I said, sure. Why? And he goes, well, probably want to add a little something on for me, And I go, huh? He goes, yeah, you'll take whatever number you're going to give them and then, add a little something on for me for getting this job for you. I said, and it hit me. And I go, hey, my wife's calling. Can you hold on for a sec? Let me call you back. Let me just call you right back. And I pulled over. And I was like, this isn't right. And people go, oh, there's kickbacks all the time in the business. I've never done kickbacks in my business. If somebody wants to get fire alarms at their house, I will point them to the best fire alarm guy, Andy Lamb, and I'll go contact him. He's the best, got the best stuff, and he'll do it, and he guarantees all this stuff. Call him. Here's his number. I don't then call you and go, hey, when you get there, if you're going to charge them $1,000, can you throw a little scrap on for me? I want to wet my beak. No, I just go, you're the best, and go, God be with you. And that's what I expect from mine too. And I guess that's an unfair expectation. Anyways, I'm struggling with this. And I just really was like, no, I'm not doing this. So I call this guy back and I go, hey man, sorry about that. And he goes, yeah. So how long till you get there? And I said, well, that's the thing. And I hadn't pulled away yet. I'm still parked on the side of the road. I said, man, let me get this straight. You want me to go out there, meet with these people that I'm going to walk around, look at their stuff. But before I give them a number, leave, call you, and then you'll tell me an amount of money that you want me to add for you. And then I'll send out that estimate. And he goes, yeah. And I go, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, what? Wait a second. What? And he goes, this is guaranteed work. And he goes, by the way, they're rich. They're not going to know. They're not going to care. What do you think you're going to charge anyways? I'm like, I haven't even seen these cabinets yet. I have no idea what I'm going to charge. But I go, I'm not, you know what, sir? You're going to think I'm the dumbest guy in the world probably. But I'm not, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. So you're going to have to call them and tell them I'm not going to be able to come. What? Oh, I don't know. You're making this weird. And I go, I probably am. This is probably a me thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel comfortable with it, bro. And I'm not going to be able to work with you on this. And in fact, I'm probably not just going to be able to work with you. No offense. I'm not trying to judge you, bro, but like, this isn't how my business is run. I can't, man. This is really weird. You know what? Tell you what, don't even add anything to it. Just go out there and do the job. No. I'm not going out there. I'm disassociating myself from you. I'm not doing that. So you'll have to get somebody else. The funny thing is like, I don't remember how it was a very awkward, okay, goodbye. Like at the end of that, and I didn't lecture him, but it was bizarre. I'm like, all right, so I'm going to go then. And we're just both, I basically jumped up on the table and took a dump on the table. And we're both like sitting here eating in a way. And it stinks and it's awful. And it's disturbing.
Yeah, but you also set a standard for like how you're going to work.
I seen him like maybe a month ago in the Home Depot.
Yeah.
And I'm walking through and I seen him, and I don't hold any grudge against this guy. Really, I don't care either way. But I seen him and I kind of, my eyes, hey, and I kind of tilt my head back, hey man. And he see me, and for a second, he kind of smiled for a second, because we had multiple conversations prior to this bad conversation.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him since. It was like 2 years ago, a year ago. And I seen the moment it clicked in his brain that I'm the prick that's left him out high and dry on this thing. And then and then the conviction happened, and then he turned down the other aisle and walked away. And he didn't head nod me or nothing. He just kind of
awkward.
And well, not for me. I snickered. I thought it was funny, and that's the end of that. What's the point? The point is like, it would have been very easy just to say this one time, I'll do that. By the way, he wanted like $500. Like, he wanted a lot. It was weird.
But the other part I don't like is like, oh, they're rich. And it's like, that just really just gets me even worse, because I'm like,
you're going to abuse. It's so weird. It's like, I wanted to call these people and go, hey, you shouldn't work with this scumbag who just sees you as a pile of money he can try to take from you at any time. Like, I don't know. I don't understand that mentality. I don't live that way. But it would have been easy to do it that time.
Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
If you have a prompting on your heart, take a minute. Just take a beat. If somebody's asking you to do something, you think that your morality is challenged, but the response doesn't instantly come, it is never inappropriate for you to say, I need a minute. It's always appropriate to do that. It's always your time to do that. If somebody's asking you to do something that you're not comfortable with, in business or anywhere probably, but certainly in business, you can say, I need a day or two, or I need an hour, or I need time, or I'll call you back. Let me get back to you on that. Do get back to them.
That's great.
And
great
be
advice.
Honorable. That was the thing. Like, I didn't have to call this guy back. Really. And I didn't want to. I knew that I was going to have to jump up on this table and take a crap. I didn't want to. But I did, because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't lecture the old man either, though he should have been, this guy's in his like early 60s. Like, what a crappy representation.
Yeah, but if you've done something some way your whole, that's what my whole point earlier. It's like, if you work in the gray now,
you're going to be the old man working in the gray. He's going to be an old scoundrel.
Yeah, your whole life. That's how I chose to live my life, and it leaked in other areas of my life, and so I'm just manipulative. you know the word I'm trying to say, the
Yes.
manipulative my whole entire life with everybody. And so every time I'm around somebody, I'm looking at them going, what can I get from them? Not what can I give to them?
Proverbs 11:1. The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him.
Detests.
He detests dishonest scales. This man was trying to dishonor the scale. There was a certain amount that it would cost for this business transaction to happen. He wanted to add extra because they had it. And God would have detested that, I think. Certainly from me. And that was the feeling of the Spirit in my heart, was saying like, this is not honorable, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But accurate weights find favor with him. I lost out on a project that would have gotten me money on an interior, which we don't get a ton of in the summer for some reason. In Florida, we only paint outside in the summertime, which is absurd. I can't get interior work. And then it's the opposite in the winter. We work inside the whole bloody time when it's actually decent outside.
Mm-hmm.
I lost money. I'm sure I made it up some sort of way. I don't track that kind of thing. Again, my vision is this big. It's like I've heard that goats can see behind themselves. So you can't sneak up on a goat. It won't be looking at you, it'll be looking away from you, and it senses you getting close and jets. Deers do the same thing. I think I have that with my vision for God, or at least that's what I'm trying to expand it towards. Because if I'm so fixated on whatever I possibly think an outcome's going to be, I frequently miss the outcome. That's the cool thing. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to expand that vision.
Plus, also, when you have that narrow vision, like especially in business, when I'm looking at this next project, this next sale, whatever it is, if you're not right with your money, then you're looking at that person as, what can I get from this person right now? What can I take from you to help me in my situation right now, because I'm not good with money, so I need to take this to make sure that everything else happens.
Instead of what can I bring to you? Right.
And that's where we lose the expansion of that view on people. It's just the here and now.
Yeah.
And if I'm always living in the here and now, then I am going to probably cut some corners just to fulfill my needs for the here and now as well.
The third piece here, purpose-driven business. Purpose-driven business.
Got a story.
Can I start with a Bible verse, or would you like to tell the story first?
I want to tell the Bible verse first.
Colossians 3:23-24. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not human masters, since you know that you will receive inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Jesus Christ who sends. Boy, did I screw that up?
Start it over.
Sorry. Colossians 3:23-24. Whatever you do.
Oh, there it is. Because you said Proverbs when you started, so.
Colossians 3:23-24. I guess I'm so used to saying Proverbs.
Well, we read them all the time.
Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Jesus Christ you serve.
You serve.
Yeah. There it is.
That's so good, man. Paul is such the way he writes to these
It's not
these
always
churches, man.
easy to see work that way. I do want to emphasize that. But when you set about making that your mission statement, I'm not working for me, I'm working for God, and you daily try to remember that, I try to do it. We'll talk about this in the next, well, I guess it's the episode that's out now as we're doing these backwards. But it's like, first thing I do in the morning, I give my first fruits to God. I'm in the Bible before I leave my house. I read before I'm doing anything. I'm not drinking coffee. I'm not doing anything. I'm having my little LMNT water drink, and I'm in the book. And then I'm reading a devotion. And I'm dedicating, and I'm starting to get my mind and my heart set in the right direction, Christ's direction, so that as I go about, committing myself to work that day, I'm committed already to God.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to vision myself being his rep on the job site he wants me to be on. And that purpose-drivenness can inspire those around me.
Absolutely, it can. So one of my very best friends in the world, Dave Epp, known since I was 5 years old, shout out to Dave, lives in Lincoln, Nebraska. Dave runs a concrete company. And his dad actually started the business. His dad started off as a builder and then moved into doing concrete work. And so Dave, I remember in high school, would summertime, he was going and doing concrete work with his dad. And just, blue collar, hardworking. Dave went to college to play football. Then during his summers there, he was still doing concrete. And once he was done with school, he went to work with his dad. And Dave kind of took over the business at that point in time. And so they were doing flat work. They were doing foundations, for building houses. And then Dave has moved the business into a different direction where they do, when people's basements are failing, they go in and run these piers and put them back up again, and they do water sealing, and they fix their basements is what he's doing now. But Dave took this business from a very small business into about a $15 million a year business. And Dave, what I love about him is, and he would share his story too, Dave has kind of alcohol background like we had, and then God got a hold of his life, and Dave has done some amazing things in what he does with his employees. He has Bible studies, and Dave's hiring concrete guys. So a lot of these guys, these are rough dudes, hires a lot of guys out of prison to help give them second chances at life. Dave can speak their language very well. A couple of years ago, private equity guys came to Dave, and they offered him a silly amount of money, life-changing, generational changing amount of money for him to sell their business to private equity. And Dave would walk away with more money than anybody would know what to do. Dave went to the Lord with that and felt like God told him, you could do that, but what's going to happen to your people? Because usually what private equity does, they'll come in and they'll redo the business, and they'll get rid of people, and they'll redo a few things and try to sell it again later is what all they're trying to do. But it would completely ruin the culture of what Dave has built there. Dave makes plenty of money doing what he does. And so the question came up of how much is enough? And so Dave had to make that decision of, I can sell this thing and walk away, or I continue working and building into people and building families. He's seeing these guys that, are rough guys from the streets coming in and now have wives and kids and are going to church and are flourishing, are foremen, and are doing amazing things with their lives because he has made the sacrificial decision to walk away from a silly amount of money. Again, he makes great money now, but he walked away from a silly amount of money to make sure that people could have Christ, because he has this eternal mindset. And now he has his son working for the business, and his son, it'd been very easy for him to take his son and just be like, come into the home office with me, let me show you the ropes. But he started at the bottom, and he's making him work his way up, and he's a foreman now. And the people in the business respect his son. His son is hardworking and ethical, just like his dad is, but he wasn't gifted something. And so he's teaching him these principles about hard work. I say all this because we have decisions that we can make. Are we eternally mindset, or do we have the here and now mindset? The way Paul wrote it there, he says you have an inheritance. Well, what's the inheritance Paul's talking about? He's talking about an eternal inheritance. He's not talking about the here and now. And so decisions that we make today in business should be about our eternal inheritance, what we have ahead of us. And so we have these choices that we can make along the way. We can take this business and utilize it to make money, which you should do, because there's nothing wrong with making money and making profit. Or we can have what we can also do within that is just take this business and I can utilize this as a vehicle for me to help proliferate the gospel in my inner circle where I'm here now. Not everybody's called to go out to all the world and become missionaries. Sometimes your greatest mission field is in the here and now, the place where you work and the people you're around. And he has set this example of what that looks like. And I'm so thankful to have men like that, like you in my life, that run businesses that take their employees and they treat their employees like gold, like family, and they honor God with what they do.
I forget if I've said this on this podcast before, but recently I was in the Home Depot speaking to a rep. They have the Pro Desk, which is where I go to buy all my stuff because I have accounts there. And I was talking to this dude, Brian. And as Brian and I are talking and I'm getting all my stuff together for this order I'm making, a woman leans out and says some things, and she's got a bandana on her head. And her name's Tammy. And Brian's like, that lady's my hero. And I said, oh yeah, why? And he goes, well, she had a double mastectomy 6 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that. And man, she's had radiation and chemo, and she still comes in here all the time. And she's awesome. She's always just got this great spirit about her. She's always like, even when I can see that she's tired and that this is affecting her, the minute anyone comes into contact with her, her, what I would say, and this isn't the word he used, but her countenance rises, and she brings herself elevates herself to the level that she needs to be at to handle this business thing. And he's seen her outside of the business as well, and she's always this way. And I said, why do you think that is? He said, well, she's religious. And I said, what kind of religion? And he goes, Christian, Jesus. And I go, oh, okay, cool. And on the way out, I caught her, and a couple other people had come up and said stuff too, like, yeah, she's the best. She's so awesome. So on the way out, I seen her and I go, hey, Tammy, just wanted to say, good on you. You're doing great work for God. She goes, oh my gosh, thank you. And I go, these people over here just think the world of you, and you're influencing hearts. That's a woman that just works for Home Depot. She doesn't own Home Depot. She doesn't even manage that building. She's simply just a cashier lady who has struggled with grace. Her life has been hard recently, but she's handled it with grace, rather. And she just lets it look good on her that no matter what happens, Christ is in control. And she brings joy because that's where she knows her foundation's at. And it's affecting people around her. That's that purpose-driven thing, man. She's showing up every day going, God, you have me here for today. And as long as I'm going to be here for today, I'm going to represent you well. It's clear that that's what, whether she's verbally said that is what she's doing. So something in her, that's her rock. That's where she lays her foundation and her purpose. And it's like, that then affects Brian. It affects the whole pro desk, which probably affects some of the people in the back, which then affects me as a guy who comes in there. Whenever I see her now, I talk to her. She's told me other stories about her experience, and that's great. And I get to share that joy. And I do think I've shared this here before. That's why I kind of simplify it a bit. But it's like, you don't have to own the business to be purpose-driven at work. You can solidify yourself every day by saying, God, you've got me in this place that I'm in, and while I'm here, I'm going to serve you. And if it doesn't feel like the right place for you, or there's something that's hard there, go, God, reveal to me why you have me here. And if I'm not supposed to be here, God, reveal to me where I'm supposed to be and help me to move in that direction. Because some people have crummy jobs. Somebody might be doing something they don't want to do anymore, or that they've done for too long, or that they feel like they're just stuck in because they've done it for so long. But they feel like maybe they're not able to represent Christ there for whatever reason that might be. I don't think it has to be that way. I think you can represent Christ wherever you're at. Because again, I don't think it's all about verbalizing it. I think it's about how you're presenting yourself. It's the display of the fruits of the Spirit.
So much of it is probably just your demeanor, your day-to-day demeanor. Just as you walk around, you can choose to have joy in your life, or you can choose to have stank face. And I'm sure she has days where she has stank face. I'm sure when she goes home, she has hard days where she wrestles with that. But you still have a choice to make within that. Is like, as I go and be a representation of Christ, I can either walk around and be like, my situation is bad, and so therefore I can treat you bad because my situation is bad, or I can take my situation I'm in and I can choose to be a reflection of Christ even within that, and look at the impact that's making on her. Good on her, man.
Yeah,
good on Tammy.
It's beautiful. She's awesome. So one kind of final piece here is, whether you're the owner of a business, whether you're the employee of a business, you can start looking, how am I stewarding
Great point.
This business? How am I making ethical choices? Am I making ethical choices? What would an ethical choice look like in the field that I'm in, doing the job that I do? And then pursuing God's purpose. How am I about, while I'm here for this? Because we're in our, if you work a full-time job, 40 hours of your week or more are spent in this place. Yeah, you're going to need to bring God in there with you if you're a follower of Christ. How is that manifesting there? Can you bring more of it? And again, that doesn't just mean verbally. It could mean an attitude. Or is this not a place that that is allowing God? Like, again, I had the choice to make between the bar and the contracting business. And the bar it wasn't a godly place. Hey, there wasn't a lot of room for preaching there. Can there be preaching for room or can there be room for preaching in bar? Sure.
But it was easy money.
Right. but there couldn't really be for me, and I don't think there would have been much of a purpose-driven, Christ-driven ministry at that bar.
Mm-hmm.
So it was time to move on from that. So that could be happening to somebody too. They're going like, oh, actually, this is a dead end for, representing Christ. Well, then start praying. Like we always say, start praying for God to reveal the next steps for you then.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a route out of here? Is there a route to make it more of that? What is the route? God, God, I need you to reveal to me where you want me to be, what you want me to do, and I trust you.
Yeah. I mean, I think the important aspect that we take there is that we start that in prayer, and then I start taking some steps towards that. Again, I never want to be the person that's going to be just praying and be like, all right, God, I'm just waiting for you to show up now and tell me exactly what to do, because
Sure.
I don't believe that God is a determinist like that. Like he's just going to determine every single step that I take for every day of my life. I just believe that God asks us to go and do, and he will, and if I do it unto the Lord, that he's going to establish my steps along the way. And so when you begin to live your life in that manner and you see God working, that's how the trust begins.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that God shows up as faithful. When we did that interview with Paul, God, if you haven't listened to that interview yet, please go listen to that interview. But, when he went to go to Indonesia to be a missionary, the 15% of the people that committed money weren't giving. He broke his leg. They couldn't get their stuff out of storage. He ran into these hardships, and one of his mentors said to him, just go as far as you can see,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't see what's beyond you, so don't go there. Just go as far as you can see and continue to make steps forward and just trust that God will be there. You're going to go through hard days in business. It's not if, it's when you go through those hard days in business. You have options and you have choices that as I go through those hard steps in business, I can continue to set my steps towards Christ and trust that he has what's best for me and continue to work hard, or I can just retreat and go, God's not determining my steps today, so I'm not going to pursue anything or I'm not going to push through it.
What was the first thing that you said when you said act as if you're
work
as if
trust as if everything depends on God, work as if everything depends on you.
I love it. That just kind of rounds it right out right there. Repeat it one more time, please.
Trust as if everything is dependent upon God, and work as if everything is dependent upon you.
Let's land this plane, man. That's great.
It's good, man.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much. This is Untrained Philosophical Discussionist. Jonny Hanson, Andy Lamb, new studio. So excited. Guys, Patreon. If you'd like to support us, please do that. It's like as low as $5 a month, really. So a cup of coffee there at Starbucks. You give up one of those, you could help us continue to propel this thing forward and, reach more people. That's what we're doing. We're just going to continue doing it anyways, but we'd love for your help. Mm-hmm. And if you think there's some good content here, it's a good way for you to contribute. You can also email us, updpodcast@gmail.com. You can send us your thoughts. Maybe you think we're wrong on something. Maybe you've got a way you've handled your business that's different. Please let us know. That is so very helpful. You can do that on the comments on Spotify. You can do it on the comments on YouTube. Hey, guys, actually, this is what I've done. This is how I've ministered at work. This is an experience I had. We'd love to hear it. We will respond. We respond to everybody. And maybe you've got an idea for a show or a series. Hey, I seen this thing, or I thought this thing, or I have this great idea for, and you'd like to hear us extrapolate on it. Kick those ideas out. We'll do that. Like, share, subscribe. We're on all the platforms. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining us again today. Stewarding God's business, making ethical choices, pursuing his purpose, how to bring Christ into work. You're awesome. We appreciate you. We want to pray that you have a deep and a fulfilling relationship with Jesus, and that he blesses you all the days of your life.
And all God's people said.
They said amen.
She did, brother. Have a great week, man.
You too, pal.
All right, bye.
Appreciate you guys.